show. Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Couples Academy Show. My name is Hassani. Good to have you with me. It is Labor Day. It is a holiday, but we don't take any days off. We give you what you need regardless of what man's celebration may be. We are infidelity recovery specialists. We focus on affair recovery, divorce prevention, getting you to a better place within your relationship. So whether you're dating, in a committed courtship, engaged, married, separated, divorced, in a situation that you don't know how to get rid of, maybe it's complicated, we're here for you. And so today we're dealing with a very important topic. Someone reached out to me this morning through a text, an emergency text, and I said, well, listen, tune into the show, we'll deal with it. I cheated on my spouse and my spouse wants to leave. What do I do about it? We're going to talk about that today. But before we get started, make sure you take a moment to like, share, and subscribe. Let the community know that we are live, because there are many people in this situation who need help, don't know where to turn, don't know what to do. But before we dive in really quickly, as you know, October 7th, we are just a few days away from the last, actually, this weekend is our last chance weekend. Those of you who are in crisis, you are in need of help, you need to reach out to us. There's still room. We would love to serve you and help transform your life and your marriage. Also, October 7th, we do have our gala coming up. We had an opportunity to work on that this weekend. Shot an impromptu video we want to share with you to get you excited about what's to come. So check this out and we'll get started right after this.
Hey everybody, Hassani and Danielle here. I'm so excited. Look at us. Look at where we at. We are at the Hilton Alpharetta, looking at this room before the incredible transformation that's about to take place on October 7th. Walls draped, stage up, lights, camera, action. And we want y'all to be there.
Are you going to be here?
Come on, get your tickets. It's October 7th. You don't want to miss this event. It is the Phoenix Awards Gala. It is our first inaugural, and we're just getting started. But we starting hot.
Oh yeah,
we jumping out this gate like never before.
We believe either you go hard or you go home. We're not gonna be home. We're gonna
go
be
hard or go home.
Where you need to be.
Come on,
so let's get it.
We want to see you on October 7th. Go to get your tickets at couplesacademy.com. We'll see you there.
That's right. All you need to do is go to couplesacademy.org /events to find out more about how you can get your tickets. They are selling quickly, so make sure you get in. It's going to be an amazing event. We would love to see you there. But we're going to dive into today's conversation. I cheated and my spouse wants to leave. What do I do about it? First of all, I want you to slow down. I want you to calm down. I need you to get your composure. I need you to get in the right frame of mind, because everything that I'm about to share with you, you need to take notes. You need to write them down. And you need to implement. You know how some of you who are believers, you'll read the word and pick and choose what you want to do. I like this, but I don't like that, so I'll focus on this. I'll ignore that. And the reality is, it's not one or the other, it's both and. You need all of the pieces. You need all of the scriptures. You need all of it, the wholeness, the fullness, the comprehensive approach to life. Likewise, the steps that I'm going to give you, you can't skip over, you can't step over. You have to embrace them all if you really want what you say that you want. Now, I had a text come this morning. A person's in crisis and they are in desperate need to save their marriage. But truth be told, not all of us are willing to do what's necessary. If you really want this, if you really want to turn things around and get things on the right foot, you've got to go all in. You can't stick your pinky toe in the water. You got to dive in head first and get soaked and saturated in what I'm about to guide you through. So this is in no particular order, but I'm going to get through as many as I can. I'm going to take my time with it so that you understand comprehensively exactly what you need to do. Now, however your spouse found out, he or she found out, But the moment that your spouse finds out, they are in crisis. And typically, there is a knee-jerk reaction by your partner to leave. Because when I said I do, and when we gave vows to each other, we made a declaration and a promise of what life would be like. Now, some people discussed never, ever stepping outside of the marriage. Others didn't, because it was assumed that now that we're in this covenant relationship, it would be honored. And maybe for the first 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, things were going well. But now we're in the 17th year. We're in the 25th year. We're in the 32nd year. And after all this time now, and so either it was a one-time affair or it was a secret relationship that hid in the shadows of your primary relationship. Regardless of the circumstances, it really doesn't matter. People oftentimes say, well, if it was just one time, I could deal with it. Or if it was just emotional, I could deal with it. Or if it was just physical, I could deal with it. Or if it wasn't someone that I work with or someone in my family, or there's all types of scenarios where people will in essence, create a better scenario that would make the situation less painful. But the fact of the matter is, it doesn't matter what the scenario is. It doesn't matter what the circumstances are. It hurts because, in essence, you chose an alternative other and you hid it. So whether they found out on their own, whether you revealed it to them, at the end of the day, once it comes out, you're in a state of crisis and you are on what we call D-Day. That's the day of discovery. And however long D-Day, from the time that they find out to the time that you get help, it could be a couple of days, a couple of weeks, a couple of months, a couple of years. You are trapped in this discovery phase, which is the most volatile phase that you can be in. There's a lot of ups and downs. It's an emotional roller coaster. And you, as the former unfaithful partner, need to know exactly what to do. So let's step into it. Number one, you have to become a master student of infidelity recovery. Ignorance is not bliss, and you can't rely on what you don't know. You can't say, well, I didn't know, and I just figured. You cannot learn through trial and error. You don't have enough time. Time is not on your side. Every decision you make, every word you speak, every step you take is going to be judged and evaluated. And everything you do will either be moving you closer to reconciliation or further away. And so you can't settle in the fact that I just don't know. There's no easy way. There's no shortcut. There's no quick fix to solving this. So you must become a student of all things infidelity recovery. If that means you need to buy 15, 25, 30 books, if that means you need to spend all day and night watching videos from Couples Academy, because we have over 1,000 on infidelity recovery, you need to understand what your partner is experiencing. You need to understand what you are experiencing. You need to understand the 7 steps to the recovery process, in each step specifically, and what you will most likely encounter and experience in each step. Because if you don't, it's going to be a lot more challenging and difficult. And you're going to do things with the best of your intentions. But as they say, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. So having good intentions isn't enough. The Bible says that wisdom is the principal thing. So get wisdom. And then all thy getting, get an understanding. And so while faith is important, it is, but you've got to be wise in the decisions that you make and the steps that you take. So I would encourage you to get The Audacity of Marriage, 10 Principles to Lifelong Partnership. That's a book that we wrote. We deal with infidelity recovery and what happens to a marriage when good people do bad things. That's one of the chapters in the book. And then we walk you through steps to begin to heal and recover. But we have a plethora of information on our podcast, in our videos, articles on our website that you can read right now to become educated. In essence, you want to get your PhD in your partner. You want to get your PhD in the recovery process. That's number one, okay? And so when people ask, it's so interesting. People ask all types of questions. I was listening to one of my mentors, and he said, listen, the questions that you ask expose you. It tells me, have you done any research? Have you Googled anything? some of the basic fundamental questions that you have, you can find just by doing a quick Google search. But the question is, are you really committed to the process of learning? Because the more that you learn and the more that you know, the more you can properly implement things in your life and in your situation that will turn your dynamic around. So number one, become a master student of infidelity recovery. All right, let's go to the next one. Get help ASAP. You got to get help. You cannot do this on your own. Everything that I've attempted to do on my own, it took me a lot longer to eventually get there. It took a lot of mistakes. It took a lot of trial and error. I knew in part, right? I just said read a lot of books, which is what you want to do. But even with all the books that you read and all the videos you watch, what happens is people often take what they read or take what they hear and immediately implement, and may not realize that there's a process, that there's a methodology, that there are steps to this thing. And if you do the right thing in the wrong order, if you go out of order, you may be compromising what it is that you're trying to do. So oftentimes, as an example, people come to me in crisis. Maybe the betrayed spouse, you know what? They want the marriage even though they're in pain. And so all they want to know about is, how can I forgive? You know, just tell me if I can just deal with how I can. And it's just like, that's not the first step. If you don't take the proper steps in the proper sequence, you will never be able to genuinely forgive, because you're short-circuiting a process. You're skipping over very important, significant things that lay a foundation for forgiveness. Or people say, well, how can I trust? I just want to get over these triggers. I'm in so much pain. I don't need all the fluff. I don't need all the steps. I just want to have a one-time session just on that. And once again, I can give you the tips, the techniques, the strategies. I can share with you everything you need to do to address the issue that you came with. But there's some underlying issues that you have not addressed, and as a result of it, you're not able to get the results that you're ultimately looking for. But when you seek help with someone who's going to guide you through an entire process to get you to a final destination, that is the best thing that you could ever do, okay? And you got to make sure that you're getting the right help from the right individuals, because seeking the right help from the wrong ones will only make matters worse. So you have to understand who to get your help from. I have a Bentley, which I don't. This is just an example. And so I decided to go to a Honda dealership to fix my car. Guess what? My car will remain broke. In fact, it may get worse, because I'm going to someone who's not qualified to help me, someone who doesn't have knowledge and skill about the Bentley and how Bentleys function and what repairs cost. And so oftentimes that's what we find ourselves doing. We share our problems with people who share our problems. And because of that, we're not able to get the legitimate help that we ultimately need. So get the right help. Number 3, you've got to develop stress tolerance. This is a very stressful time, okay? And oftentimes when you are stressed, you may react in a way that is not typical to the way that you normally would react, okay? Maybe you have trouble sleeping. Maybe you sleep too much. Maybe you can't eat. You can't hold anything down. Maybe you're an emotional eater and that's all you do. Maybe you have a knee-jerk reaction to tell everybody, anybody who will listen to you, right? Maybe you keep it closed in and you don't tell anyone, so therefore nobody knows what your situation is to help guide you in the right direction. You do all types of things in panic. You are frantic. You're emotionally all over the place. You're not in your sane mind. And so you need to begin to develop a tolerance for stress, because the stress that you're experiencing is not something that's just going to last a day. It may last a season. And if you are in a stressful state and don't know how to properly manage it or don't have tolerance for it, it will impact other areas of your life. It will impact how you show up as a parent to your children. I can't be the father or the mother that I need to be to my child because I'm all caught up in my own emotions. It will impact how you show up on your job. I can't think straight. I can't function. I'm taking days off of work. I'm calling in sick. You know, work is not getting done even when I do show up. I'm just in here like my mind is numb. You cannot function. It has an impact on your finances, because guess what? If you're not showing up on your job, maybe you'll get suspended. Maybe you'll get written up. Maybe you'll get fired. It has all types of consequences. So there's a trickling effect, okay? So you have to do the best that you can to be good and to take care of yourself, because not only do you have to be there for you, you, but you have to be there for others as well, particularly your spouse, if your spouse is in this pain. The next thing you got to do, you have to be a contrarian to yourself. Be a contrarian to yourself. What does that mean? You have to do the contrary of whatever your heart and mind is telling you to do. So in your impulsive state, you may have a knee-jerk reaction to do, but whatever it is that your mind is telling you to do the opposite. Whatever your heart is leading you to do the opposite. Whatever your thoughts are driving you to do the opposite. Whatever you are feeling emotionally and physically in your body and is demanding that you do the opposite. Because oftentimes when people are led and driven by feelings and emotions, it drives them crazy, and it drives them in the wrong direction, and it drives them into a brick wall. It will make matters worse. So in essence, you've got to have an out of mind and out of body experience, and then get back in your mind and your body. What does that mean? In your mind are all of your thoughts. So you're thinking about thoughts of the past, thoughts of the future, and these thoughts are taking you all over the place. And what happens is you begin to, out of fear, think horrible, horrific thoughts. Out of anxiety, you begin to go dark in your mind. You begin to imagine, and your imagination is not working for you, it's working against you. And in your need to do something, you wind up doing something that collapses and compromises the integrity of what you're trying to work on. What you're feeling in your body, you're feeling sadness, you're feeling pain, you're feeling anxiety, you're feeling stress, you're feeling exhaustion, you're feeling anger and rage, you're feeling just whatever you're feeling. It could be debilitating. You want to get out of that body, right? Out of that mind. And you want to assess things as a third-party witness. You want to take in wisdom and intellect and information from others that can guide you. You want to have the right resources. Understand, as feeling-oriented people, we are led and driven by what we feel. But when you are not feeling good, when you are not well, when you're in a broken state, you cannot rely on your feelings because they will mess you up. So you've got to feel the fear and do it anyway. You've got to feel the pain and make the hard decision anyway. So many people want to run from pain. They want to run from what they're going through. This is why we drink. Because we want to sedate ourselves. We no longer want to feel. This is why we smoke and do drugs, because we want it to take us somewhere else. Anywhere is better than where I am right now. And so we're living life by escapism, right? We do all types of things to avoid the feeling, and we wind up doing things that make matters worse. But you've got to be able to make sound, wise decisions that aren't governed by a negative feeling and a negative emotion. And so that is why you've got to be contrary to yourself and do what makes logical sense. Do what has been spelled out for so many others who have implemented these steps and have gotten the results. So sometimes you got to question your own darn self, because you're not in the best place to make such a decision. Listen, guys, we're just getting started. I hope you're getting something from this. I'm going to give you some other steps on the other side of this break. So stay right there. We'll be right back. All right, guys, we're back. You're watching the Couples Academy show. We're talking about I cheated and my spouse wants to leave. I'm trying to give you the steps of what you need to do to turn your situation around. Because listen, even though right now it looks bleak, it looks scary, your spouse is 1 foot out the door. Listen, that may be your present situation, but that does not have to become your permanent reality. So we're giving you the steps of what you need to do. Listen, let's go to the next step. Find a way to do the impossible. See, in your mind right now, you think he's done, he's gone, he's not coming back. He was real clear that it's over. She said that she's never going to consider making love with me again. She's never going to consider reconciling with me. She's going straight to the divorce court, and it's a wrap. And I want to let you know that just because that is where they are today, it is not an indication of where they're going to be tomorrow. You have to learn how to do the impossible, because as Muhammad Ali said, impossible is nothing. In fact, impossible is just a big word thrown around by small men who find it easier to live in the world that they've been given than to explore the power that they have to change it. Impossible is not a fact. It's an opinion. Impossible is a declaration. It's a dare. Impossible is potential. Impossible is temporary. Impossible is nothing. There's all types of situations that you may face that may seem impossible, but you've got to bring God into the equation, because he has the ability of taking the impossible and making them possible. If you believe that you're too far gone, that there's no coming back from this, that there's no way that this thing can turn around, guess what? You're right. Because whatever you choose to believe, you are right. But if you hold on to a belief that things can turn around, and if you begin to have a posture and a disposition and an attitude, and you approach life with the possibilities, even in the midst of this great impossibility, you may be surprised and amazed at what is able to happen. I've seen all types of situations where people have filed papers, where people have been separated for years. All types of things have done, yet and still restoration did come. So you've got to begin to work on your mindset. That's what we're ultimately talking about. If you think it's impossible, then guess what? Work on changing the way that you think. Work on soaking and saturating yourself with positive information, positive quotes, positive inspirational things that will give you hope for the day. You got to surround yourself with other people who have been exactly where you currently are and have overcome it, because their stories and their testimonies and their examples will build up a belief in you of what can happen in your particular relationship. And so when people come to me and say, listen, I need help, but I just don't have the money and I don't have the resources. Okay. So what are you going to do about it? Are you going to let your world come tumbling down? Are you going to let your spouse leave because you're looking at the facts, and the facts indicate that there's no way in the world that you could ever do what's necessary to get the help that you need? Listen, I don't care about your resources. Your resources are irrelevant. Are you resourceful? That's the question. Your resources may say, I have nothing in the bank. I only have 2 nickels to rub together. But if you're resourceful, you will find a way. Let me tell you something. Not that we encourage this, not that we even give this as advice, but someone reached out to us literally 2 days ago. And when they found out that there was going to be an investment, and they knew about the investment before they contacted me, because they've contacted others and knew that there was an investment, but they already came ready to go. They said, listen, we don't have the money. What we're willing to do is tap into our IRA, our 401k, our retirement, because that's how much this marriage means to us. We are willing to take out a loan. We are willing to borrow from family and friends. We are willing to work an extra job. It's just like a person who talks about being in debt and they want to get out of debt, but they don't do anything because my job only makes me such and such dollars a month or a year, and so I can't afford. Well, where's your hustle? Where's your grind? Where's your willingness to do whatever it takes? Never thought to you, let me get a second job. It never thought to you, let me sell off some things that I have that I can make some quick, fast money. It never thought to you, let me partner with someone. Let me ask for a loan. Let me step outside of my own resources, become resourceful to get what's necessary to do the impossible. But beyond money, because it's not just that, are you willing to do the necessary work? Because you may say, well, I'm not willing to do that. Now listen, I want this, but I'm not willing to do that. Then you don't really want what you say it is that you actually want. You want, but you don't have a strong desire. And if you don't have a strong desire, you will always be in want, meaning you will always be in lack. And so at some point, you got to step up and you have to get up off your shoulders and put one foot in front of the other and be willing to do whatever it takes to get what it is that you say that you want. There's nothing that I did not choose to do, decide to do, want to do when my marriage was on the line, when the possibility of my wife leaving and my family being destroyed was a reality. I had to shift gears. I had to turn something on. See, when you're going through hardship and when you're going through pressure, sometimes a different side of you is introduced to you. And you're like, well, where you been all this time? And when you shift into gears and you begin to do things that you've never done, you'll be able to get things that you've never gotten. But you've got to be willing to do the impossible, and you got to be willing to be uncompromising in your consistency, because doing something one time is not good enough. It may require you doing it again and again and again when there's no results, when there's no evidence, when there's no likelihood, when there's no signs that anything will turn around. How long are you willing to go? If you have failed in your attempt, how many times are you willing to fail? Because you only become a failure when you give up and quit. If I have to fail 1,000 times to get to my destination, I'm going to do it. I remember the book by John Maxwell. He wrote a book entitled Failing Forward. If I'm going to fail, I want to make sure that I at least took a few steps forward. The last thing I want to do is fail backwards, because if I fail backwards, I'm going in the wrong direction. I'm going further from where I want to be. So I'm willing to look foolish. I'm willing to make mistakes. I'm willing to struggle with it. I'm willing to deal with difficulty and unease. I'm willing to do anything that is necessary until my impossible becomes a possible. Okay, so let's get into some more practical things, because you're engaging with your partner, right? He, in this particular case, or she, wants to leave. They made that declaration. What do? Okay, make every effort to show your spouse that you are truly apologetic. That is critically important. Are you apologetic for what you've done? Are you truly sorry? Have you really gotten to a point where you are remorseful and you demonstrate and you show it? If you take a very casual, cavalier, lackluster approach to your spouse staying, you're not doing whatever it takes, because they don't see any evidence. They don't see any remorse. They're not hearing it in your voice. They don't see your conviction. There's no belief that they have that you truly mean this, because you're not demonstrating any type of sincerity. And so you've got to be apologetic, not just apologetic for getting caught. See, some people are only sorry because they got caught. You've got to fully embrace being sorry for engaging in the behavior in the first place. And when you are showing remorse, you're not pointing the finger. You're not making your spouse responsible for your decision. You're taking complete ownership and 100% accountability for what it is that you have done. If you have not, it's not going to go well. This is not the time to get into all of, well, the relationship wasn't working well and you pressured me and you forced me. This is not the time. This is not time. This is not the time for you to be telling your spouse how they did not show up. There will come a time for that. And that time is when you're in a process and you have a third party facilitating the conversation so that they can make sense of your valid point. But this is not the time. This is the time where you have to show yourself to be willing to be honest about what you've done, and to ask forgiveness, and to be apologetic, and to show remorse. That is the season that you are in. And it's got to be genuine and authentic. Now, some would say, well, it's too little, too late. Yeah, I see, your emotions now. Where were your emotions then? Well, sometimes crisis like this causes us to wake up from our stupor. We don't realize. See, we do things and don't realize the devastation attached to the things that we do. So there's a number of things that we're sorry for. So when you apologize, you have to be really creative, and you have to be very specific in unpacking what you're apologizing for. Like, you got to dig into the weeds. You got to strip that thing down, and you got to break it down till it can't be broken anymore. When you do that, you're in the right position. Let's go to the next step. Be ready to work hard to save your marriage and ask for your spouse's help. This is important. Now, here's the reality. It takes one to initiate a process, but as the song says, it takes two to make a thing go right. Okay. Now, what if your spouse is giving you zero interest, zero desire? They've already verbally articulated with conviction that they are done. You got to ignore those facts. You got to ignore what they say. You can't listen to the words that are coming out of their mouth. You have to press on anyway. You have to demonstrate and prove to them that regardless of how they feel, regardless of what they want, you are going to be committed to a process of healing and restoring yourself and the marriage as well. While they're wavering back and forth, because truth be told, though they're making these convictions and these statements and these vows and these declarations to you, something's possibly on the inside of them may want to stay, but they feel like they can't because there's too much hurt, there's too much pain, too much has been done. And so you've got to show them another way. You've got to demonstrate a different reality. You've got to let them know your willingness and your commitment to doing the work. And even when you're doing the work and they're not showing up at all, continue to do it. Stop looking over at what they're doing or not doing. Let not their behavior and their actions motivate you or demotivate you from doing what is necessary in terms of what needs to be done. No, you have to remain consistent. I was willing to put in that work regardless of what Danielle was willing to do. But I did it long enough to make her a believer, because at first when I was doing the work, she thought I was just doing it just to save the marriage. Well, of course, that was my motive. And she thought that it was an outward demonstration. It wasn't real. It wasn't who I am. You know, I'm just going to fall back into my old ways, my old practices, my old norms, and it will be another justification of why she doesn't need to move forward. But regardless of how she was showing up, I was consistent, because consistency is the key to the breakthrough. The Bible even says, don't be weary in well doing, for in due season you shall reap if you faint not. In essence, don't get tired of doing the right thing, because if you do the right thing long enough, eventually you will experience a breakthrough. And you've got to be willing to do it and do it and do it some more and do it again and do it till you don't feel like doing it. And even when you don't feel like doing it, do it again. And be committed to doing it regardless of the evidence, regardless of what's happening. Because when you do it, you're sowing a seed, and you don't know what's happening when that seed is deposited into soil. There's a law of growth and a law of germination, and eventually something will sprout out and there will be a harvest. But you don't know how long that season will be. It's not your job to know what the seed is doing. It's your job to continue to sow. And when you do that, things will begin to turn around. Listen, guys, we're past our time. We're going to continue this conversation into tomorrow, because it's too vital and too important, because some of you will find yourself in this space right now. Maybe your spouse just found out. Maybe they found out a year ago and they've reached a breaking point because nothing has changed and there's no hope for the future. And so you are now back at square one, right? Ground zero. I'm going to give you the steps and the tools and the techniques that you need to do to turn your situation around. In the meantime, you need to reach out to us, set up a discovery call. Go to the website at couplesacademy.org. Reach out 678-200-8996. I would love to talk with you to see how we can help facilitate you in your moment of need. But until then, I hope you have a great day. It's Labor Day. See you tomorrow for another great episode. Take care.